This week on the agenda, the future of mobility, how physical AI and robotics are driving us into a brand new world. Artificial intelligence is set to revolutionize the way we get around, from increased tech in the cars we actually drive to driverless robotaxis. The impact of the future of travel, and even in the design of the cities and towns we live in, will be huge. China has placed technological advancement at the very heart of its 15th five-year plan. So in this episode of The Agenda, I'll be talking to two titans of Chinese industry to get their thoughts on the future of mobility. First up, I sat down with Brian Gu, co-president of XPeng Motors. The global EV market feels like it's entering a new phase. Slower demand in some regions, intensifying competition, and growing trade friction between major markets. What is really driving this reset?
Well, there's many factors actually impacting EV demand around the world. I think let's take China, for example. It is experiencing some policy adjustments. We saw the first quarter being soft because obviously the reduction in some of the tax incentives, as well as the naturally seasonal light quarter for the first quarter. But we saw a strong demand in Europe, maybe because of the increasing oil prices, as well as generally people's adoption of EV is increasing in many of the large European markets. Southeast Asia has always been a fast-growing region for EV because obviously a lot of the Chinese players are there already, developing good market positions for affordable EV brands. So I think that there's, in general, a pretty robust EV growth penetration increase, except for China, which had experienced a little bit dip in the first quarter.
Now, you've come from Wall Street into the center of China's EV expansion story. What do you think that XPeng understands about navigating global markets and capital and industrial cycles that maybe traditional legacy automakers haven't quite grasped yet?
Well, I think the development of EV and mobility technology actually are influenced by so many factors. We have to experience, the technology revolution, electrification, developing intelligent driving technologies. We have to face geopolitical challenges and tensions and tariff regimes. We have to experience COVID. So as a company, I think we benefit from being young, nimble, and fast-acting, as well as tech-focused. These actually are traits that sets us apart from the traditional legacy players. I would say for companies that's big, as well as have obviously a long history, it's hard for them to really react to these fast-changing agents, regardless of whether technology or geopolitical. So I would say, being focused and being nimble is something that we can differentiate better from the rest of the OEMs.
Now, the European EV market is incredibly important, but it's also one of the most politically sensitive. With tariffs, scrutiny, debates around industrial policy, how do you approach expansion in that kind of environment?
Well, I would say there's no quick fix or shortcuts around it. It is something that you have to address if you want to develop a global business. In today's world, there's so many things that's going to happen, so many changes come in. You're hit with a lot of, surprises, whether it's tariff, whether there's war, whether there's, incentive changes, etc. As a company, you just have to react to them quickly. I would say, yes, there's a tariff environment in Europe that we have to deal with, but we're adopting strategies to quickly change our product mix, our partnership model, our localization strategies in order to react to that. So that's something we have to do as a company.
Tell me a little bit more about that localization, that regionalization, because there does seem to be a bit of a shift in how countries think about those EV supply chains. What's XPeng doing there?
Well, I think it's not just that particular point. In order to really fine-tuning your strategy to tackle the local dynamics, including tariff as well as customer preferences, etc., you have to understand which products you should introduce to this market, what localization strategy, including manufacturing, supply chain, you need to plan in order to address some of these challenges. What partnership or selling models, for example, whether you're retail or agency or importership, what type of sort of a marketing model you need to have for certain countries. All of that has to be considered in totality so you can come up with optimized strategy.
So what you're saying is we've moved way past those considerations like battery life and range for EVs. What's XPeng putting the focus on? Is it AI? Is it the software? Is it the technology as much as the driving experience?
Well, first of all, you cannot have gap in any of these areas. You need to have advanced technology, high quality products, and make sure cost is competitive. And on top of that, you need to differentiate from the other products or other brands. So what we focused on, what we believe is the future is AI-empowered mobility. That's autonomy. So we actually in China already known to be a leader in autonomous driving technologies. AI-empowered in-cabin experience. How do we differentiate people's experience inside the cabin, utilizing the space, using the screen, the sound, and the computing power to achieve productivity and enjoyment. And thirdly is to make sure we continue to focus on providing good customer service that's expected for a premium brand and product.
So you're a technology as much as you are a car maker. I think 40% of your staff are in R&D, which is quite unusual when it comes to an automaker. Is that what gives you the edge? Is that the direction you think that other car makers are going to go in?
It's our DNA. It's when we are started, we have a vision that we are tech focused, we are R&D focused companies. We have consistently deployed more R&D resources than pretty much every other competitor we have in China as well as globally, by percentage wise. We also have been very, very persistent in investing into the future tech. Even when we were small companies, we have developed autonomous driving effort that requires a lot of investment and a lot of talent and focuses, which at that time people would always say, why don't you focus on cost and electrification? Why you spend so much money on software? Because we always believed the model that intelligence is going to be the ultimate differentiation, not just simple energy transition, not just by controlling a low-cost solution to compete.
So let's talk a little bit more about autonomous driving, because every car firm is racing towards that true self-driving model. How close are we really to systems that can safely operate across different countries, road rules, and driving cultures?
Well, I think there are obviously different level of autonomous driving categories. For example, in China, our current cars on the street already have a very advanced driving technology, but still it's called level 2+, which means that the driver still is responsible for the outcome of the vehicle. Even though the car is smart enough to navigate probably 99% or 99.9% of the driving scenario, there's still requirement for you to pay attention to the road and ready to resume control. So that's level 2+. And that technology currently is not available in Europe yet. We are working with European regulators. So hopefully by next year, there will be the advancement in regulation. So the DCAS 3.0, which is the United Nations standard, can be used in Europe, allowing such technology to be used here.
Is it about the technology though, or is it about what consumers want, what they're open to trying?
Well, I think our experience, because China went through the exact same thing. 5 years ago, people said, we don't need that. We just need an affordable, nice-looking EV. But when we start to introduce the technology, after 5 years, after we showcase technology in highway and later on urban roads and then on busy small back streets, now people, more than 50% of drivers are using that every day. So that means that the penetration, it become almost like the majority of the time they rely on the machine, on the autonomous driving rather than themselves. I think the same thing will happen. Maybe it'll take a slightly different adoption curve. It happened a few years later, but having access to the technology to improve your driving and mobility life, I think it's ubiquitous around the world. So that's level 2.2 plus. And then there's the other scale, which is level 4. I mean, I skipped level 3 because our view is that level 3 is sort of neither here nor there. We believe we should go directly from level 2 plus to level 4.
Is that robotaxis?
So level 4 is full autonomy. You don't need a steering wheel anymore. The car should be able to handle driving on its own without human intervention. And the first use case of level 4 is robotaxi, which we actually have gotten the license in China to road test in Guangzhou with our production vehicles. And I think that probably will be a commercial reality probably in a few years, maybe 2 to 3 years, but still will be under a controlled environment. For example, in your US, you saw Waymo has been launching robotaxi services in 11 cities, but still under very strict monitorization. And we also saw testing in a number of global cities in Europe, in Middle East, and in US as well. So I think a robotaxi will be probably the initial use case of level 4 autonomy. However, the thing that we are excited about is that if level 4 has become a commercial reality and ultimately become a wide available technology, what can be in your daily life? So your normal everyday vehicle can be a level 4 vehicle. It can be a vehicle that you don't need a steering wheel. You can make this into a living room or entertainment room or a medical room or a restroom that you can use. So it becomes actually part of your living space. And that could be also the future for level 4 autonomy.
Brian, it sounds like my dream commute. But look, you've worked with regulators in China and other markets as autonomous driving has developed really quite rapidly. What are the biggest real-world barriers to scaling autonomy globally? Regulation, data, is it something else?
Well, I think it requires the trifecta to all work together. One is technology. You need technology to be fully capable. Well, I think we're still some way to go. I mean, we've solved probably 99.99% the scenario, but we need to maybe 99.999999%. So we still have a little bit way to go on technology. Secondly is on regulation. The government as well as the ecosystem need to be there to allow level 4 autonomy. That means services. That means insurance. So a whole ecosystem with the regulation need to be there. And then the third thing probably takes the most time is customer education, consumer education. People need to be comfortable, confident. That will not happen overnight. That will happen gradually, iteratively, from one small, I would say, early adopters slowly growing to large population. And that process is necessary. So all three things have to happen in order for this to become a available reality.
There is so much discussion right now about physical AI, that intelligence that doesn't just compute but interacts with the real world. How is XPeng thinking about that shift?
Well, we're very excited about it. We think this is exactly what we have been focused on. So take a step back, right? Physical AI became a exciting reality or potential is because the advancement in AI has allowed we get to this point that physical AI become potentially a reality. AI in the last 15 years has seen significant changes, right? The first AI we know were 15 years ago, the visual recognition, the voice command, that's AI. That's called perception AI. And then a few years ago, we saw the ChatGPT and DeepSeek started to get people excited. That's generative AI, because the first time AI can be self-reasoning, providing content on its own. That's actually a big leap from the perception era. And then recently, I think the AI has now morphed into what we call agentic AI, which means that AI can be put into agents, solve problems for people rather than just answer questions. They can be used as tools. But all of those are only happening in the digital world. The reason that the next frontier is physical AI is that ultimately, to have an impact on human world, you have to move things, you have to change things, you have to impact things. That has to be done physically. So the physical AI is, I would say, the next frontier, but it also has probably the biggest, widest application in our daily lives.
Is that why you're investing in humanoid robots?
And that's why we think, because of potential and because we are now at the cusp of physical AI, that's where we think is the biggest opportunity. And also, this is very much consistent with our focus in the last 10 years. Automobile is exactly the same trajectory which, as I described on the AI growth. Decades ago, automobile is more of a machine. It's a mechanical product. And then probably 15, 10 years ago, everybody talked about software-defined vehicle. You probably heard that name before. And there's a lot of software inside the vehicle that give certain functions and features.
So what point did it turn from a car
exactly.
into something else?
And then recently, you start to see the software-defined vehicle become AI-defined vehicle, which means that, for example, the ADAS function that I described that we have showed in the Chinese roads, this is what we call the AI-defined vehicle. But take it further, the Robotaxi, the level 4 autonomy, where cars can make decisions and judgments on its own, is physical AI. So that is actually the progression from the rudimentary AI to physical AI. So taking the same capability that we are now moving towards level 4 autonomy, it's the same AI approach. We have to use the large language model architecture. Probably we have to use compute, which not only is on the cloud, which is used the data center, but also in vehicle, which is edge computing, that we actually use our chips, as well as collect vast quantity of high quality data. That approach is called the physical AI approach, and we are now using it for autonomous driving vehicles, as well as for humanoid robots and flying cars. So that flying wheel we developed for automobile, for autonomy, can be applied to other physical modalities.
You're really excited about the next phase of growth, aren't you?
Very excited about this, yes.
Brian Gu, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very nice talking to you.
At the recent Move 2026 conference in London, which aims to be the global stage for companies rewriting the rules of transport, I spoke to James Peng, CEO and co-founder of Pony AI. James, here at Move London, a lot of the conversation is about how autonomous driving is moving from a car as a product to much more of a transport system. Where does Pony AI fit into that shift?
I think Pony AI was founded 10 years ago, already with a desire to build autonomous driving systems to revolutionize our mobility systems. So we were actually focused on building systems that for the passenger transit and also for the logistics. So for us, it's always a system approach where we're not only just collaborating with OEMs to build autonomous driving vehicles, but also building a robotaxi fleet together with user acquisition systems, with fleet management, and with fleet maintenance and the servicing and everything. So essentially, we're going in, looking this as a system, as a product, where we're also working with the local residents, working with the local regulators to really make this as a product for the passengers to enjoy.
So the mindset is about it being an ecosystem and not just a vehicle. And of course, Pony AI is already out there with Robotaxis. Talk me about how that's going.
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely, as I already alluded to, we view this as a product. Think about it, in order to run this as a robotaxi fleet, it's not just the vehicle itself. A vehicle itself has software and hardware, but beyond that, we need user acquisition systems, right, for the user to enjoy. For that, we collaborate with ride-hailing platforms. For building the vehicles, we collaborate with auto OEMs. And then we also run a fleet. A fleet needs to be managed, needs to be serviced. Then we work with some of the fleet management companies. So essentially, I think you use the exact correct word. It's an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that actually will make the whole system move as a product.
We will get on to talking about partnerships in a moment, but I want to talk to you about the real life aspect of what you do, because Peng AI is out there on real roads in real cities. Well, how is that different from testing things out and all of the simulations?
Yeah. For example, in the 4 tier 1 cities in China, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Shanghai, we already have a fleet of close to 2,000 taking real passengers fully driverlessly. So it's sort of like already a taxi fleet where you can use your phone to get a ride, just like you use other ride-hailing apps. And then a vehicle will roll in front of you fully driverlessly without a driver and take you safely to your destination. So that whole experience is, you can think of the way is very exciting or very futuristic, but on the other hand, it's a very boring ride. So boring is good.
It does seem very futuristic for a European. Europeans being much more cautious about this futuristic technology. What have you learned, though, from being on the road, the real roads, compared to the lab?
No, I think what's out there, because mobility is in an open environment, it itself is very diverse. Not just the road, the conditions is very different from country to country. The driving behavior and the pedestrian behavior are quite different country to country. And what's on top of that is also the environment itself can change. Heavy rain, snowstorms, and all that. So essentially, we have to make our AI systems to train and to learn all this diverse environment and to cope with it, to make the vehicle to be safe, reliable, and comfortable.
And a huge part of that, and key to your model, is of course partnerships, which you've already mentioned, partnerships with cities, with different transport systems, with different regulators. What makes a partnership work in this space?
I think for the partnership, the key is mutual beneficial, right? For cities, they want to provide a good and reliable and safe mobility systems for the residents. For partners, they want to get benefit out of this. For ride-hailing platforms, the autonomous mobility is a great supplement to their existing systems or existing fleet. So I think it's finding a way to have mutual beneficial. Then that's the key for the partnership to successful and to be sustainable.
You do work across very different markets and different regulatory systems. Which one is working for you right now, and which one is keeping you up at night?
No, I think in general, all the what's in regulators' mind are very similar across the board. They care about safety. They care about the impact to the existing. Impact could be positive or negative to the existing mobility systems. They care about taxi services and also potential job loss or job impact. So I think it's, although, I mean, they have different levels, but they are similar.
But what changes from city to city, from country to country?
No, I think it's
There's
just
much more regulation in Europe, for example.
Yeah, because they haven't seen it. I think once, for example, once we brought in our services in Luxembourg, in Zagreb, in Croatia, actually in adjacent cities or adjacent countries, the local regulators can see it. Seeing is believing. Once they see this is actually working, safe, reliable, enjoyed by the local residents, their mind will change. So I think it just takes time.
What kind of feedback have you had from the Croatian market?
No, I think it's a huge success because the Zagreb itself, although it's not a big city, but it has very diverse types of traffic scenarios. It has a very beautiful downtown, which is like the typical European city. And it also has a new development area. And we are now actually currently running the whole city, pretty much the whole city. So we can showcase that we are able to handle all these traffic scenarios. So I think it's a good showcase to other cities in Europe.
Where does the real business model sit? Do you think that Robotaxi is already a business, or it's something that's still being built for the future outside of China?
No, I think Robotaxi definitely is huge. As I already mentioned, our business is to develop the autonomous mobility for passengers and for logistics, for goods. So, of course, our current focus is on Robotaxi. That's the movement of passengers. But we are also having, in parallel, system for logistics. We have robo trucks, the big ones, and also smaller ones for the inner city logistics. So in the coming years, besides Robotaxi, we'll see robo trucks and coming in fruition.
Now, Peng AI was a bit of a pioneer. Now, of course, there are many, many players, particularly in the Chinese market. Do you feel that they're able to sort of leapfrog your technology and that you've done all the hard work? Or is it good to have all the competition there?
No, I think in general, it's very good to have competition, to have an ecosystem. I consider competitors also part of the ecosystem. Essentially, the mobility industry is so huge, right? It's enough of a pie for many players to share.
Is there space for everyone?
I wouldn't say for everyone, but for the strong ones. But I think having more players, having a choice for the passengers actually helps the quick development of the whole industry in general.
Why do you think it seems to be happening faster in China than anywhere else?
No, I think the fastest in China and in the US. I think mainly because of the talents, because of regulatory framework is relatively accommodating, and but it's just a early mover. I think the mobility demand across the globe is the same, so we will be everywhere. I think gradually everywhere will be benefited and start enjoying the benefits of autonomous mobility.
There's a lot of excitement, isn't there, around physical AI? Where do you see your autonomous driving in that sphere?
I think autonomous driving is the first and the biggest real application of physical AI, because it's related with AI than the movement. Robotics, of course, is more general. It's a general form of physical AI, but it probably still going to take several years to mature. So we'll I think in the coming years will be very exciting. We'll see a lot of new developments and new applications of physical AI.
And where would you say the real limits are? Is it in the technology, or is it in the world that we're operating in?
No, I think both. I think because once we have autonomous or AI with movements, that needs to interact with human safety boundaries, ethics, data security, data privacy, and a lot of things need to be well crafted and well prepared and well managed. So I mean, I think the potential or the ceiling is really high, but the way to get there will be hard, and we'll see up and downs. But in general, I think the direction is the right one.
James, absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all my pleasure. Thank you.
You can watch every episode of The Agenda in full on CGTN Europe's YouTube channel. And for exclusive extra content from me, my guests and the rest of the team, don't forget to check out @The Agenda Show on TikTok.
Coming up on a future agenda, the skills shortage. Has tech talent become the world's most vital strategic resource? But for now, from me, Juliet Mann, and from all the Agenda team here in London, goodbye.